Son of immigrant parents, legal immigrant parents. We came here in the year 2000. I was born here in the USA. I lived overseas for 5 years. We came here and we lived in my grandma's living room for 8 months. After 8 months, my parents moved out. They bought their own apartment, later bought their own house, started their own business. But what they began as was working low-wage jobs because they're immigrants. Even though that in their own home countries, they had masters and PhDs, and my dad was a lawyer, my mom was a telecommunication major. Their degree was worthless here. My dad began earning at that time, which was the minimum wage, was I think $6.25, in a factory, cleaning the floors. Later, after that, he went to a butcher shop, same thing. Then eventually got their GED and they started their own business. You know, what we have seen in the year 2007, 2008, right? You had unemployment go up to 10.5%. You had trillions of dollars of wealth liquidated. The long-term unemployment right now for many people is 11 million people are long-term unemployed. 95% of the wealth created since essentially was the Depression has gone to the top 1%. And in the last 30 years, wages have stayed stagnant. American workers have doubled the productivity, but their wages are still the same. And so in the year 2007, the city of Irvine took a step forward. In the year 2007, Irvine became the only city in Orange County to have a living wage. And our living wage was special, not only because it was the first of its kind in our county, our Ruby Red County, but also because it applied to city contractors. It's applied to our city contractors. You're talking about almost 500 people in the city itself. Now, the way our living wage worked was we would pay those contractors what the lowest paid employee of the city of Irvine was. The lowest paid employee in the city of Irvine is 1082. That means that our contractors would be paid 1082 with healthcare benefits. If they didn't have healthcare benefits, it would be $13 an hour. And we had one more provision. We said if a company did business with the city of Irvine, they would have to pay their employees across Orange County the same amount. So that means if you had 100 employees, 50 of them which worked in Irvine, you have to pay all 100 employees that same wage, which means you had hundreds of families be uplifted from near poverty to higher standards of living. And for 7 years, our living wage worked. For 7 years, we had no problem. For 7 years, it was a model for Orange County, given that we were the only one that had successfully implemented. What happened was, earlier this year, on June 9th, our city council, on a 4-to-1 vote, voted to cut the living wage in Irvine. An SEIU worker came down. She didn't speak English. She came down. She had her daughter translate for her. She said, I'm paying for 2 kids to go to college. I work 2 jobs. And this job that I have right here, right now, gives me healthcare benefits. With this job, I'm able to give my kids health insurance. Otherwise, I would not be able to afford to give my kids health insurance or pay their tuition. And in the face of this, in the face of overwhelming opposition from community leaders, small business leaders, and workers, the city council nonetheless voted for this. It affects people at the lowest rung of the economic ladder who have nobody to stand up for them. So now we're in the process of collecting 10,445 signatures. The citizens of Irvine will get a chance to vote on that. And so we've been moving this issue forward, and we've been bringing people into the fold that normally aren't part of the political process. Did you know that 60% of our volunteers are people who have never ever been involved in a campaign in Irvine before? They showed up because they believe that living wages, economic justice was an issue that has no boundaries, right? It's not a Democratic issue, it's not a Republican issue, a conservative issue, a liberal issue. It's rather a human issue. We all know deep in our bones that there's something wrong in this country when the top 1% of age earners earn 90% of the wealth, but cities lead the way. You saw it with Los Angeles a couple weeks ago at 15, Seattle as well, San Francisco, heck, even Arkansas put a living wage initiative on its ballot in November of 2014, and it passed with 67% of the vote. So Irvine actually stepped first, but in the wrong direction. See, while everybody's going forward, Irvine decided to say, hey, let's step back a little bit. And I tell people, the 1980s called and they want their economic policy back. And we need volunteers, we need donations, and when we get those 2 things, the third thing becomes easy is qualifying that's on the ballot. Because every dollar we spent, and every signature we collect, and every man hour we spend on this initiative ultimately goes down to qualifying this issue onto the ballot. Groups like yourselves, fellow Democrats, progressives, people who are interested in economic justice, are really key foundation, because we're really a grassroots operation. You know, little by little, we build a grassroots operation. On the ballot, you'll be damn sure that the Irvine Chamber of Commerce and Orange County Chamber of Commerce will be looking at this and they'll drop tons and tons of money to defeat this. Because they know that if they lose this fight, the dam breaks. Start seeing our county slowly shift into a bluer, more brighter direction. Because living wages and economic justice are really about vision, right? It's the type of future we want to have. Do we want to have a city and a state where we pay workers a decent wage, where workers are respected by their employees, where workers are valued for the work they do, where health insurance is affordable? So you put us one step closer to that future. Because it only gets done with people like yourselves, grassroots, fire in the belly volunteers who understand the struggle. What we can do in face of insurmountable odds is say, it's too much. Because it's when we prove the odds wrong, is that we inspire people to step forward. And people believe they can make a difference. It's when they go up and take the fight. So help us make that difference. Whether it's by donating $10, collecting 10 signatures, knocking on doors, preparing materials, help us. Because every step counts, and together, as a community, as a larger Orange County community, we can have a brighter and more prosperous future. Thank you, guys.